Oh, goodness. I didn't see you come in. Well, sit down. Sit down. I was just going to pack a pipe and think about all the nice spirits we've enjoyed over this year. So please sit. Come join me. Won't you? So we're going to do the top spirits of the year. And just to review, if you haven't watched these videos before, it's not about the best spirits I had this year, because you couldn't just go check the scores, right? This is just the spirits that I want to give more exposure to, and that I think kind of caught the world spirit this year. And there are rules for the top 10. It has to be sort of available in some quantity. I'm going to set the limit at 350 bottles, because like 500 seems enough, 250, 300 seems like not enough. I'm just going to split the difference. However, and it has to have come out not this year, but sometime recently, and I have to have reviewed it over the last year. However, we are going to talk about the things that are not only honorable mentions, but honorable disqualifieds, and that is where we are going to start. So the 10 honorable disqualifieds in no particular order. First up, Zin Hunbrecht, the Fund Alsace, bottled by Amateur Spirit. Oh my God, one of the best things I tried this year. There were a couple of like crazy old Hamdens that you can't get anymore that beat this out, but and maybe that crazy Beyond Dock thing as well. But beyond that, like, I think this got the highest score I gave this year. Absolutely amazing brandy. It was only a couple, like 100 and change bottles, but if you ever see it, try it. It's fantastic. Also, honorable disqualified is a bunch of mezcals, because they tend to be, the ones I like tend to be in much smaller batches. The Burrito Fiestero Mezcal Ancestral, the Castilla, almost certainly the best espadín I have ever had. Just phenomenal. It was a very, very small batch, but if you see it, grab it. Also disqualified, but amazing, is the McCarthy's Cast Strength from Oregon, the single malt. The aficionado's pick in the rum barrel. Rum barrel number 702. Oh, God, one of the best malts I tried this year. But doesn't sort of take the highest place for best American whiskey I had this year. It has to tie with another aficionado's pick, the Dad's Hat single barrel, which was picked by the r/bourbon people. That came out of nowhere. That was a video I was doing on Pennsylvania Rise, and I had a Leopold Brothers there I thought would blow everything out of the sky. But no, the Dad's Hat just came out of left field and took my breath away. Absolutely phenomenal bottle. I have to get more Dad's Hat. Next up, Fiji. The 2001 I just reviewed. One of the only spirits I've ever had where water is not just recommended, but absolutely necessary. It's just not the same thing unless you just dollop some water in there. It becomes a completely different animal. One of the best rums I tried this year, and just a killer bargain if you can grab it. It's bottled by Rum Artisanal. Also, this particular barrel might be hard to get a hold of, but the Morlock 2009 13-year-old ex-bourbon, which was bottled by Ultimate, I think. Ex-bourbon Mortlock in general is so slept upon. It's a very austere, tricky, cerebral profile, but man, you got a good one, and they're fantastic. And because no one is looking for them, they're still the pricing is still reasonable. That being said, this felt like a year where Scotch prices, maybe whiskey prices in general, started to get a little bit sane again. Not everywhere, but in a few places. Also, An apple brandy, the St. George Reserve, the Binny's Pick, was just, it was appley and more appley and delicious. And it is not the only phenomenal apple brandy I tried this year, but that one deserves some mention. If I'm sure you can get it on closeout now for nothing. Grab it, stock up. Oh yeah, Ballantrae 10. Ballantrae 10. I think that. I mean, it's such a long-standing bottle. It felt like it was out of the time range of the top 10 list. But yeah, it's maybe not the highest score I gave this year, but to find an affordable, well-presented peated whiskey felt kind of special. So I want to highlight Ballantrae 10. I'm going to see if I can get the 15, maybe some other stuff from them later on. A late addition to this list, the Roaming Road Jamaica 9-year-old cask that I just reviewed a couple weeks ago. Another one that came out of left field for me. I saw Roaming Road and I thought, okay, they're doing the rolling fork thing. They're doing rum for bourbon drinkers. I was wrong. That Jamaica is, I don't even know what distillery it is. Maybe Hampton, could be Long Pond. I don't really know. Is another one of the best rums I tried this year. Completely unexpected. Grab it if it's still out there. And last up on our honorable disqualifieds, the Richland rum, RR20, their 20th anniversary. The best American rum I think I've ever tried. Just absolutely delicious. You could argue maybe not the most distinctive rum in the world. It's very wood-driven. It's very Foursquare-y, but God, was it good. I would love to have a bottle if I could get a hold of it. All right. And that was our honorable disqualifieds. On to the honorable mentions, the things that qualify for the top 10 list, but just couldn't squeak their way in. I do have bottles of the top 10. I just didn't want to, be here all day trying to dig up everything. So be patient with me. Honorable mentions. As long as we're talking about American rum and some of the best American rums I've ever had. Kohana. Kila. Cask Strength. This is not the super expensive one aged in whatever the heck Hawaiian oak they're charging tons of money for. No. This is the standard American oak one, and you would think cane juice based rum aged in American oak would just be flooded by the oak. But no, this Kila was so characterful and so beautiful. And it's a little bit expensive, but it had such a unique character to it that's another one where if I could get a bottle, I absolutely would. And they made a fair amount of it, so it actually qualifies for the list. Moving on, there had to be some Hamdens here somewhere. I'm going to put Great House this year, the 2024, on the list. It's getting a little bit expensive these days, but there's no denying that this Great House was a huge step up from the one in 2023, which I thought was delicious, but maybe a little bit lacking in power and complexity compared to the rest of the series. With the 24, we're back up there. It was not my favorite Jamaican rum this year, or even my favorite Hamden for that matter. But for something widely available, as good as it is, Hamden is still killing it. Another rum. There's a lot of rum on the honorable mentions. In fact, I'm just going to edit the order I put these things in, and we're just going to do all the rums first. Next up, Mount Gay Eclipse Navy Strength. I am there's a lot of things about this that annoy me. The Navy Strength thing. Barbados has not been controlled by Britain for a long, long time. Why is there a reference to the Navy? But you go out there and you try to find, good aged rum at that price point, especially at that strength. There's not a lot out there, and the Navy Strength is better than the Hamilton 151. It's way better than the Plantaray, whatever the heck it is. I mean, it's a really nice bottle, and it's not expensive. You can keep it on the rail for any occasion, so it goes on in the honorable mentions. Also, that the Transcontinental Rum line, Mauritius, 2017. This was when I did in a blind. I could not believe the depth and the complexity that was on this thing for it being only 3 years old. Great little grab if you see it. Mauritius 2017 from TCRL. Also, a review I did of Clarence Sajus, this time the 2020 vintage. It wasn't quite as good as the previous vintage I did, but man, it's still good. So if you see it, grab it. Sajus, just one of the best distilleries in the world, despite a small scale compared to many of the other best distilleries in the world. Let's see. No, I'm going to skip that and come back to it. Oh, right, the Père Labat, Le Mans, single plot rum agricole, complete mutant of a rum. I've never tasted anything like it, and I don't expect to ever again. Again, a little bit pricey, but there's really nothing else out there like it. I mean, there's single plot agricoles out there. They exist. And there's, single varietal agricoles out there. That exists too. But ones that have that incredibly weird, the weird character that's on that Père Labat, I'm not aware of them. So it goes on the list. The Still Strength Tech TECC from Long Pond, bottled by Rhum Deluxe. An absolute pain in the butt. And one you have to sort of take your time with. It's one where it loves the water. You just have to, if you have a bottle of this stuff, put it in a glass, just tablespoon water into it until it stops attacking your face, and then just leave it alone. Leave it alone for at least 10, 15 minutes. Put a little cap on it or something, and then come back, and it will absolutely reward you. Really, really great rum, and difficult, but you do reap the rewards if you put the time in. Another mezcal, but this one actually has the volume for me to put it on the list rather than disqualifying. The Michoacan de Bromas from Guadalupe Perez. Very, very classic Michoacan mezcal. Just a beautiful example of mezcal from outside of the sort of mainstream of Oaxaca and Espadín and all that stuff. I've really enjoyed a lot of the Duramas range, and that's probably my favorite. It's not inexpensive, but it's out there. It gets pretty good distribution, and it's worth your money. So it goes on the list. Also, last of the honorable mentions, it was somewhere. Yeah, the Gujing Gong, the 8-year-old strong aroma Baijiu from Anhui, not from Sichuan, as you might expect. Super duper duper cheap for a half bottle, and it gives you a really good idea of what a strong aroma Baijiu with a fair bit of age can do at a very reasonable price point. Gujing Gong. You see it, it is worth a grab. Worth a try, especially for maybe mezcal fans. Give it a whirl. I think that's a great little Baijiu to buy if you're new to this stuff. All right, we will get to the top 10, but I'm also going to throw in some in a category I'm going to call Just So You Knows, which I can't really give awards to these things. I just want to make you aware of them. First is Don Q signature release 2009. I talked about this in Rum Revival, Arminder's channel. He made me do 2 minutes, and I talked about the Don Q. It's an example of what Puerto Rico could do if they tried. And there's not that many examples of that out there, but hopefully there will be more. And I hope my efforts will help them nudge things in the right direction. Also, the Puy, the L'Encantata Puy bottling from 1999 in that little 3-pack I did. I think that's the only place you can get it, but I checked through my records. It is the best L'Encantata I've ever had, full stop. So if you have an open mind and money to blow on a L'Encantata 3-pack, it's worth it just to get that bottle. That little, 200 milliliter bottle. Puy 1999. Also, Poumon La, the Turning Tables Nola collab from Porch Dam Distillery. Louisiana rum, cane juice rum, really, really good. Charitable cause. There's still a few bottles left. Worth a grab. Again, I don't know if I can give it an award, but just so you know. Also, for those of you who've been looking for the Leopold Brothers 3-chamber rye, but have been saying, Jesus, I can't spend like $200 for a bottle of 5-year-old whiskey. What is this? Your prayers have been answered. If you wanted to try it but haven't wanted to splash that level of cash, they're now selling it in flask in 200 milliliter bottles. I got one back there. And yeah, it's still not cheap, but it's a lot cheaper than the full bottles were. So yeah, just so you know. And finally, onto our top 10. The top 10 spirits of 2024. Very interesting year. Yeah, let's get started. And so a couple of years ago, I started the top 10 with Old Tub. And I feel like this is a little bit in that same spirit. Benchmark. Full proof. This is, I think it's not quite as good as Old Tub was, because that had that kind of beam nuttiness to it. But this is stronger, and I think it's actually a little bit cheaper, at least in my neck of the woods. You could build a bar around this stuff. It's just, you could, in fact, let me put it this way. There are bars, I know this for a fact. I haven't witnessed it, but I just know, that are refilling their empty Stag Junior bottles with this stuff, and no one's able to tell the difference. Like, that's kind of where this is. It's that kind of style. And if you dig this style and you haven't bought a bottle of this, just again, sort of like the Mount Gay, this is something you keep on the rail at all times. Or yeah, just build a bar around it. Like, it's cheap, it's good, it's strong as hell. It gets on the list. Number 10. Number 9. Speaking of spirits that you could build a bar around, the brand new Worthy Park Overproof. Anytime a new Jamaican Overproof hits the market, it's always a little bit of an occasion. In this case, I have to admit I was trepidatious because we were losing my beloved rum bar Overproof. I shouldn't have been worried. This is fantastic. This is it's a little bit more understated than the rum bar was, but I think if anything, it's probably even more versatile. And rum bar was really versatile. It's a mix of molasses-based distillate and cane juice-based distillate. It's delicious. It is very caney, but also very Jamaica. I love it, and it's cheap, and you should go buy it. Number 8. This is actually a single barrel, but it was a big barrel, so it gets on the list. Clear Creek, 15-year-old apple brandy. Barrel number 409. This is another A-Fish pick. It's like, a Calvados that was put into sharp focus. The French oak notes on this are so distinct, but also at the same time, the appley notes are so distinct. It's just like it's like drinking an apple pie or something. It's an absolutely beautiful brandy. I think this is the best brandy I tried all year, except for the Puy, maybe. I loved it. If you get a chance to try this, it's phenomenal. And there are a bunch of bottles out there, so you have a good chance. Number 7. Another one of the best bottles I tried this year. Gijo. 1988. This is a strong aroma Baijiu. It's basically kind of the sister distillery to Motai. It's not inexpensive, but good Lord, is this good. In fact, I sent a little bit of this to Robin of this blog's neat, and she did her own whole review on it, and you should check that out because I was delighted that she enjoyed it so much. Anyways, phenomenal bottling. It is allowed in this list because even though this is a consistent bottling, it is vintage dated. Yeah, or not vintage dated, but bottling dated, I guess. This is the 2021. So that gets on the list. Number 6. This is the only one I haven't been able to get a bottle of because it's out. Suyo Italia Pisco. Now, there was another Suyo, Mosto Verde, that I liked even more than this, but this was considerably cheaper. And they made a bunch more of it. So this is the one that gets my pick. Just an absolutely gorgeous bottle of Pisco. It's floral. It's really floral, but it does it without losing balance. It's just a very complex, delicate spirit. You would never imagine something like this could be so good at 41.7% ABV. I imagine we'll have another batch of this one of these days. If you see it, grab it. And we are in the top 5. We're in the top 5. What could be next? One of the most exciting things to happen in whiskey this year, I think this was actually divisive bottling, but I was really impressed by it. Art Nouveau. So I was expecting, when I got my bottle of this, to come out and say, it's a nice beat of whiskey. It's fine. It's smooth. It's peaty. It's sweet and vanilla-y, and it's got a little bit of sherry influence. I was ready to do that. That's not what this is. This is a little bit of a brute. It's a little bit of a trip. It's gonna fight you. It's gonna come at you, and I kind of love that. Like that they didn't censor themselves when they were making this, and they didn't censor themselves when they were bottling it. It's 5 years old. It's 50%. It's not the cheapest bottle of Scotch in the world, but it is like it felt like an event to pour this in a glass and taste it and say, oh, this is Islay, but it's a side of Islay I've never really, I don't remember tasting before. I really love this stuff, and it gets the top, the number 5 spot. Whiskey's back, baby. There's a lot of whiskeys on this list. It doesn't mean that there's not a lot of stupid stuff still happening in whiskey, but there's a lot of good stuff too. Speaking of which, Armoric 15. As far as I'm concerned, this is the new benchmark for where 15-year-old single malts should be. Like, this is not expensive. It's relatively small batch. How many bottles of this are there? It's only a couple of barrels. I'll have to double check. Doesn't matter. But it's so vivid and characterful, and it's got a little bit of everything. It's got some nuttiness. It's got some fruit. It's got a little bit of a sea spray. It's got some peaty things going on. It's not expensive. It's presented really, really well. Why isn't the rest of the whiskey world doing this? Why are all the other 15-year-old and older whiskeys, ridiculously expensive or smothered in finishes, or, why? Why isn't everything like this? I really like this whiskey. If you see it, grab it. You will be stunned. I mean, I tried a lot of good world whiskeys this year, but this was the one that kind of opened my eyes. Armoric 15. Number 3. This is another one I talked about on Arminder's channel. Amig Serrano, Cartier 30. There are other cane juice bombs out there. There's a fair number of them. Not a lot of them are at $60. This is 70.3% alcohol. You need a hazmat license to carry this around. And it is $60 a bottle. And it's fantastic. It's just an absolutely beautiful, very spicy, very present example of cane juice rum. But what an absolute steal for what this is. I am still waiting for them to put out a pot still version of this, because the Crassel family also has pot stills. But for the moment, I couldn't be happier. Cartier 30 from Alembic Serrano. Number 2. This is one I seriously had at number 1 for a while, and I just couldn't keep the actual number 1 out of there. But it is Leopold Brothers 8-year-old straight bourbon whiskey, finished in 3-chamber rye whiskey barrels. Cask strength. I did think for a while that this was a single barrel, but no, there's actually a couple of barrels going into this, so it can go on the list. A couple of things for context. First of all, there's a 1 out of 10 review of this on Reddit, basically saying don't buy it. It's like taking this cinnamon dragon challenge. And I know where they're coming from. This does not taste like a traditional bourbon at all. And if you were looking at this list, like, go watch the review and go get some context on this, because if you buy this expecting Booker's, you're going to be mad at me and you're going to think I'm cheating you. I'm not cheating you. I think this is phenomenal as just a different kind of thing. And it's not just that it's good. It's the value for the category is off the charts. For context, when a couple of years ago, I put a J. Henry & Sons 8-year-old bourbon on a list like this. I talked it up. I was like, this is the year that craft whiskey in the U.S. has to stop making excuses and either be good or just, go away. That was my jam. And I scored it pretty well, and it was like over $100 or something when I bought it. This is cheaper than that. You can find this for under 70, sometimes under 60. It's the same age. It's, if anything, even more crafty. Again, they're dumping their own floor maltings into this, long fermentations. And it's better than that bottling was. And again, it's less expensive in a context where everything else is now more expensive. So I don't know how this exists. I'm just delighted it does. And if you are an adventurous spirit, and we've watched the review for a warning, go buy this if it's still out there. However, that is not my number 1 spirit of the year. My number 1 spirit of the year is Papelin Haiti, 6-year-old. I had some favorite Clarins in the past, and I never thought anything was really going to beat them, except for like maybe some really small lot production thing, maybe. But no, what beat them was this. This is the not only the best Clarin I've ever had, because it's basically a blend of Clarins. It's the first aged Clarin I've ever had that is truly, genuinely great. Like, this is just a great rum, full stop. You have to like sherry. There's a hell of a lot of sherry on this. And you also have to like Clarin. Like, it's got that character to it. For the level of quality on this and the price point on this, which is not really that expensive. It hasn't hit the U.S. yet. We'll see what the pricing looks there. But in the online shops, this is not expensive. Value's off the charts, and it's just so darn good and so darn cool, and I'm so happy to have tasted this. Yeah. This is my number one. And yeah, that is my list. Thank you for suffering through, 35 mentions of things? Hope that that was enough for you. Thanks for watching. And cheers.